Okay, welcome to our lesson on making equivalent ratios using a table. Today we're going to look at situations and how to take the ratios from that situation, put it into a table, and then how to create equivalent ratios from that table. Alright, so here we are talking about making paper mache, and Sarah mixes water and flour. So it's important to note that for every 2 cups of, here we go, so every 2 cups of water, she needs to mix in 3 cups, change the color here, of flour. So in this case, my black pen goes with my water and my yellow pen goes with my flour. So I want to find equivalent ratios for the ratio relationship 2 cups of water to 3 cups of flour. And I want to represent those in the table below. So what this means is, first I can start off with just what I was given. So I know that for every 2 cups of water, I need to use 3 cups of flour. Excuse me. So I'm going to make equivalent ratios. So in this case, I know that if I want to make, so this is for one batch, let's say. So if I want to make a second batch or a double batch, I know that I have to double the amount of water. So if I double the amount of water, I have to double the amount of flour. Right, so here I know that this ratio 2 to 3 is equivalent to the ratio 4 to 6. Because what's happening is I'm taking that one batch and what I need for that one batch, and I'm creating a second batch. I also know that if I want to create maybe 3 batches, so I'm going to now go from 2 to this amount of cups of water. Okay, so to make a double batch, I had to multiply by 2, but now I want to make a triple batch, so I have to multiply by 3. So I'm taking 2 times 3, so I have to use 6 cups of water. So if I use 6 cups of water, so if I tripled the amount of water, then I have to triple the amount of flour. And I know 3 times 3 is 9. Okay, and I can go on and on here. I can also say, okay, well, if this is a triple batch and I want to double my triple batch, okay, so I want to double this right here, I take 6 and multiply it by 2 and I get 12, and I take 9 and multiply it by 2 and I get 18. Now if I look back, going from 2 to 12, I'm multiplying it by 6, and to go from 3 to 18, I'm multiplying it by 6. So I know that everything is still equivalent. So going back to before, when we were talking about our tape diagrams, so we know that we have 2 of our cups of water and 3 of our cups of flour. Right now, everything is worth 1 cup. Well, if I want to make a double batch, then all of a sudden this has to, every 1 cup now has to represent 2 cups. So every 1 cup now represents 2 cups. And now I find that I have 2 to 3. And I change that to, well, this is now 4 to 6. And this is a little bit more easily shown if we write it in fraction form, because we're very used to creating equivalent fractions. Okay, I can also go from this and say, okay, I want to make a quadruple batch, so multiply by 4 and I get 8, and multiply by 4 and I get 12. Okay, so again, just to create the equivalent ratios, we have to multiply. So what we do to one ingredient, we have to do to the other, because otherwise, if we don't mix it properly, we're not going to end up with the correct paste for the paper mache. Alright, so again, at this point, if you feel comfortable, I want you to go ahead and try this on your own. Make sure you're answering the questions here. Don't just go through and do what you please. Make sure you're actually answering the questions that go along with this. Okay, so spraying plants with cornmeal juice is a natural way to prevent I hate this word, fungi growth on the plants. It is made by soaking cornmeal in water using 2 cups of cornmeal. So again, I'm going to have my 2 in pink, and that goes with cornmeal. for every 9 gallons of water. So we're going to complete the ratio table to answer the questions. So in this case, I need to put my first piece of information. So cups of cornmeal, I know I have to, my original tells me that for every 2, I need 9. So for every 2 cups of cornmeal, I need 9 gallons of water. So to answer this question, how many cups of cornmeal, so I want to know how many cups of cornmeal should be added to 45 gallons of water. So now just with the table, if I put 4,500 gallons of water, I have to think, how did I go from 9 to 45? Well, to do this, I had to multiply by 5. So if I multiply the gallons of water by 5, I have to do the same thing to the amount of cornmeal that I use. Because if I don't, again, my mixture gets messed up. So I know that I have to use 10 cups of cornmeal. Okay, so again, that's quite large. Bring that down a little. I would have to use 10 cups of cornmeal. Okay, so this is all going to attach itself back to what we've been talking about with the tape diagrams and creating equivalent ratios and understanding that originally this 2 to 9, everything, so when we drew the 2 to 9, everything was worth 1. Just rough drawing here, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, so everything was worth 1. Well, now I needed all of this to be worth 45, so everything became worth 5. So that means, so I multiplied by 5, or divided by 5 as the case may be to figure out what they were each worth. So these had to be worth 5, so I knew I had to use 10. And now here again, we're using the table to help us out a little bit. Okay, what if he only has 8 cups of cornmeal? Well, now, to go back to my pink marker here, if he only has 8 cups of cornmeal, he wants to know how many gallons of water should he add if he wants to make as much cornmeal juice as he can. So if he only has 8, now I have to think of how did I go from 2 to 8? Well, I took my 2 and I multiplied it by 4 to get 8. So I made enough for 4 batches. So if I had enough cornmeal for 4 batches, then I need enough water for 4 batches, which means I have to have 9 in each batch. So now, instead of each of these being worth 5, so if we go through and erase, do the best I can here as quickly as I can so we don't have to redraw everything. So in this case, we now know that everything is worth 4 because we want this to be worth 8. Well, again, if all these are worth 4 and I know that there's 9 of them, I know that 9 times 4 gives me 36. So here, I know that I have to do 9 times 4 to give me 36 because I had to do 2 times 4 to give me 8. And then what can we say about the values in this ratio table? Since we did the same to one that we did to the other, we can confirm that all of these are equivalent ratios. And yes, we could continue with more equivalent ratios, but in this case, I've answered the questions that I need to, and so I don't need to go any further in terms of my table. All right, so here he would need 36 gallons of water to make as much cornmeal juice as he could with 8 cups of cornmeal. We can say that all of the ratios given in the table are equivalent because they all reduce down to 2 to 9. And we don't even have to say down, they all reduce to 2 to 9. Okay, so here you have a couple problems that I'd like you to try on your own. There's only 2, so up here gives the information, down here is the problem. I'd like you to try these two problems on your own as your U-tries. Again, if you have any questions, be sure to write them down or email me so we can go over them in class.